Hey, friends. Welcome back to the Morning Four. I've been having a lot of conversations lately about singleness, dating, marriage, all of it. And something keeps coming up in these conversations. People will look at me and ask, how are you so confident that you're going to get married someday? And I've actually had to think about that because the truth is, I am confident. I have a desire for marriage. I also have a hope for marriage. And I have a peace in the life that I'm living right now. And those things don't always walk hand in hand. I think a lot of that peace comes from my relationship with the Lord and knowing that my identity isn't waiting on another person to arrive. I'm already me. A husband isn't going to suddenly give me an identity I didn't have before him. Marriage isn't going to complete a version of me that's currently incomplete. What I desire is partnership. I want someone to come home to. I want someone to build a life with. I want the consistency of knowing that when I've had a hard day, there's a person there who knows me and loves me and can just hold me. And I think that's an important distinction because sometimes we talk about contentment in singleness. Like if you're really content, you're not supposed to want those things. Or worse, we tell single people, just be content in your singleness. You'll find him when you stop looking. God's probably just working on you right now. Can we maybe not? Because, spoiler alert, I don't think contentment means you stop wanting something. And I definitely don't think content is some secret formula where once you finally become okay enough with being single, God says, congratulations, you've passed the test. Here's your spouse. That is definitely not how I see it. And if you haven't lived in a long-term singleness recently, I think you have to be careful with the advice you give someone who has. Because those phrases might sound encouraging, but sometimes they're just not. When I was almost 20, people would tell me, oh, you won't be single long. Well, here we are. And thank God I didn't build my faith around somebody else's prediction for my life, because if 20-year-old me had held on to that as some kind of promise from God, 40-something-year-old me would probably be very confused right now. My story doesn't look like I thought it would, but when I look back at it, it has looked like what I needed. And here's something I've realized. I didn't choose long-term singleness. This is simply the reality I'm currently living. And there's a difference there. I don't wake up every morning and think, oh my gosh, thank goodness I'm single. What a gift. Some days it is a gift, and some days it isn't. There are days when I come home after something heavy and I really wish someone was there. I want the hug. I want the person who loves me walking toward me when I walk through the door. And lately, I've felt that more. I've actually thought maybe I should just get a dog because apparently we've reached that portion of the program. And honestly, I might. But a dog isn't the husband I'm hoping for. I've had a roommate and I've had my sweet Ted waiting for me at home. That's my old dog. But I've never had my person waiting here. I've never known what it's like to walk through my front door and consistently have the person I've chosen to build a life with there. And I can acknowledge that I want that without allowing the absence of it to make my current life less valuable. Because I may not get to choose whether I'm single today, but I absolutely get to choose what kind of life I build while I am. This is the card I've been dealt. I'm not handing it back because it's hard. I'm going to play the hand I've been dealt. And there has been work involved in becoming okay with that. I don't want somebody listening to this thinking, well, Kelly's just naturally good at being single. because that sounds terrible. No, I've paid attention. I am an observer by nature, and I've watched relationships my entire adult life. I've watched relationships happen quickly. I've watched them last a lifetime. I've watched people love each other really well, and I've watched people not love each other really well. Every one of those relationships carries its own challenges. And just because I haven't had a long-term relationship that led to marriage doesn't mean I'm somehow less capable of entering into a covenant with someone. If anything, this season has given me a lot of time to understand what that covenant means to me. Because I don't just want a marriage. I want the right marriage. I don't want to just pick a person. I've had opportunities to choose someone, but I never wanted someone to be a placeholder just because I was tired of being single. I want to look at the person I'm walking into covenant with and know I can choose to love you for a lifetime. Not just when this is exciting. Not just when we're attracted to each other and everything feels easy. The good days, the bad days, in sickness and health. Seasons where we really like each other, and probably seasons where we're going to have to remember why we chose each other in the first place. I take it really seriously. And I want someone I believe the Lord has highlighted to me. And please hear me when I say this. Have I asked him to hurry this story along? 100% I have. Absolutely. Like, Lord, whenever you're ready, I am available. But when I look back over my life, I don't despise the time I've had. And if I'm being really truthful, I can't say I was even seriously looking for a partner for a lot of my adulthood. Like through my 20s and even into my early 30s, I just loved my life. I loved where God had me. I wanted to be able to go whenever I was told to. I wanted to be available for wherever the Lord had me and whatever He put in front of me. And now I feel a bit different. I feel more grounded. I feel really open. And I feel like I'm in a place where I genuinely want the opportunity to be a good partner to someone. And maybe that's why I can look at my long-term singleness differently now. I see some of it as covering from the Lord, not punishment, not evidence that something is wrong with me, not time that was wasted, but a covering. There were things I needed to live, things I needed to learn, a person I needed to become. And I'm grateful for that time. But gratitude for the past doesn't mean I don't have hope for something different in the future. That's the part I really want you to hear. Acceptance and settling are not the same thing. Settling feels like, well, I guess this is all I'm ever going to get. Acceptance feels more like, this is where I am today. So how do I live today well? There's peace in that. Not perfect peace every single day. There are ebbs and flows. There are days I love the freedom of my life. And there are days I am so excited to give up all that freedom just to have somebody sitting on the couch when I get home. So both of those feelings are true. But this is the thing. I refuse to spend my life looking across the fence at somebody else's life and think, I wish that were me. Because married people have their hard. Single people have their hard. Parents, they also have their hard. And people who desperately want children have their hard. There is no relationship status that exempts us from being human. And I've had married friends look at me and say, you get to travel. You get to go wherever you want. You have so much freedom. And yes, I do. And I want them to enjoy the beauty of what they chose to. You chose that person. Love them, honor them, fight for the covenant you made. Because while you may occasionally look at my freedom and think it looks easier, I occasionally look at the person sitting beside you and think that looks pretty nice too. Neither one of us needs to romanticize the other's life. We just need to be faithful with our own. So, no, I'm not going to tell the single person listening to this, just be content. I don't know what the Lord's doing in your story. I don't know how long your season will last. I don't know what ache you carry when you walk into your house at night. But I will tell you this. Your life is happening right now. You are allowed to want something different while still building something beautiful right here. You can desire marriage without being desperate for it. You can experience loneliness without deciding your entire life is lonely. You can have hope for a partner without believing you're half a person waiting for somebody else to complete you. And you can tell the Lord honestly, I love the life you've given me. And I would still really like this thing. I mean, I do. I have hope. I have peace. And I also have a desire. They don't always walk hand in hand, but somehow I've learned to carry all three. My story doesn't look like I thought it would, but up until now, it has been exactly what I needed. And I'm going to trust that the next part will be too. So, your one sip, one tip this week is stop fighting the reality you're currently living long enough to ask yourself what you can build inside of it. That doesn't mean you have to love every part of it. It doesn't mean you stop praying for something to change. And it definitely doesn't mean you slap the word contentment over something that actually hurts. It just means you stop putting your life on hold until the thing you want finally happens. Maybe for you, that's not singleness. Maybe you're waiting for the job, the baby, the house, the healing of a relationship, the answer to a prayer you've been praying for a really long time. And whatever that is, I think there's a difference between saying, I don't want this, and saying, I can't live fully until this changes. You're allowed to want something different. You're allowed to ask the Lord for something different. But while you're waiting, ask yourself this. What kind of life am I building right here? Because you may not have chosen the hand you're holding right now, but you do get to decide how you're going to play it. And I'm not handing mine back just because it's hard. I have hope for what's next, but I also have a life to live today. So take what you need, leave what you don't, and I'll meet you right back here next week for another sip. Oh, and one more thing before you go. Did you know the term goodbye actually comes from the phrase, God be with you? Around the late 1500s and early 1600s, God be with ye started getting shortened in writing until, over time, it evolved into the word we now use as goodbye. Which means this word that we throw around all the time started as something much more meaningful. It was essentially a blessing as someone left. God be with you as you go. And now we're just like, okay, love you, bye. But I kind of love knowing what's hiding inside that word. Goodbye. God be with you.